Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Hi, Aaron. So my name is Dan Macaluso. I am the Vice President for Advancement here at Harvey Mudd, and you're getting a consolation prize. Typically, Maria Clave, our president, is here to introduce the Annenberg lecture. She tries very hard with her busy schedule to be here for every one of these. This one was impossible. She has some international travel that she's dealing with. She's actually this isn't the international part, she's in Atlanta now, and she's doing a computer science review at Spelman College, and then I think this afternoon she's on a plane to go to University of St. Andrews, and she's delivering their Carnegie lecture, and then there's a Harvey Mudd College 60th anniversary event on Friday night, and she's attending as well, so she's doing a lot of travel strung together, but she sends her greetings, sends her regrets, and welcome to everybody, welcome to all the Simpson employees that are here as well, the clinic folks. There's a little bit of an experiment. We usually do these lectures in the evening, about 7 o'clock, at the end of a very long day. We figured let's try to do this in the middle of a very long day and take advantage of the gathering of the clinic folks. So for all the students, faculty, Barry, everybody, thanks for letting us do this. We really appreciate you being here. I think you'll obviously get a lot out of this. All of our Annenberg lectures are always just extremely well done, and we just love having folks on campus. And Karen, a special welcome to you for being on campus. And again, I know Maria wanted you to be here. She hopes someday soon you'll get a chance to meet personally. She loves to show off campus to everybody, so we'll all do it in her stead. I also want to take a minute just to acknowledge the Walter and Leonore Annenberg Foundation. They established an endowment that actually funds this lecture in perpetuity, and this is something we do every spring. We have several, had all of our lecturers are great. We had 4, including Karen this year, and she's here to cap off a really, really strong series again this year. I'm actually not here to introduce Karen, I'm here to introduce the person who's going to introduce Karen. So, what's my role? I don't know. Annie Trancow is actually here. She has been with Simpson StrongTie since 2006. She is a field engineer, structural engineer. She is also a Harvey Mudd class of 2002 alumna. Annie and her husband, Sean, are both 2002 alumna of the college. So she got more than just a degree from her time here at Harvey Mudd. Annie also just finished up a 3-year term on our board of trustees as a young alumna representative. Did a great job there. She actually showed up as 2 people. She was pregnant when she started, and she has since given birth to her 3rd beautiful child. So she's a great example of somebody who's been extremely successful in her career. Also has been able to balance family and work very successfully. Her and her husband do that as a team. But I'm just pleased to welcome Annie, ask her to come on up and introduce her boss. Just no pressure there.
Thanks, Dan. It's great to be back. I haven't actually been on campus for about a year. But as Dan mentioned, my name's Annie. I was here a little less than 15 years ago, and now I work for a company called Simpson Manufacturing, and I'm very proud to be a part of actually both of these institutions which I feel have a lot in common. One of which is kind of a birthday. Harvey Mudd's 1955, Simpson's 1956. I think both institutions have taken very similar paths in terms of growth and vision for both companies. It's my distinct pleasure today to introduce our CEO and president of Simpson Manufacturing, who is Karen Colonias. Karen started out her journey at Simpson as an R&D engineer, and now she's running the company a short 30-some-odd years later. I know that she's going to go into a little bit of detail on her past. I don't want to kind of spoil any of that story, but just kind of telling you as somebody who works at Simpson, Karen's kind of impact on the company, the way that she leads. We started out making wood connectors, so in a wood building with all the little metal parts that you see in there, and now we do both residential and commercial construction. We've grown to close to $1 billion company in the time that Karen has been leading us. And the great thing about Karen as an engineer is that she really understands how the products work and how the industry works. And she shares that with everyone at Simpson. So we're a pretty big company. We're about 2,500 people. We just recently had a sales meeting in Arizona. And one thing I've always noticed about Karen is that she is always looking to talk to people, which is not something that I think is very typical sometimes of a stereotypical introverted engineer. But for me, she's been a great role model to kind of show that engineering is so much more obviously than being a technical expert, but being somebody who shares that information in a way that others can understand it. So kind of with that introduction, I wanted to invite Karen to talk about how she's come to the point that she is today.
So thank you very much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here this afternoon and speak to so many students from the Harvey Mudd University. And I have had a pretty long career, about 30 years, in management and leadership. And I'm hoping that there's something, at least one thing of value that I can relate to today that will help you in the future, not only of what you're doing in campuses, but of course as you look further going on into your career. So certainly some accolades about Annie. You heard a few things about what she's done here at Harvey Mudd and all the committees she's engaged in. And at Simpson we have something that we call is hiring an EWP. I don't know if anybody here might be familiar with that, but for us an EWP is an engineer with personality. And as being an engineer, I can say this, right? So most engineers, public speaking is not a comfort level for them. I commend you on the clinic process that I got the chance to see today. That's an excellent opportunity to be able to talk to people. But at Simpson, we don't allow our engineers just to sit in front of a computer all day. They've got to go out and they have to talk to customers. They have to be engaging. And they have to be able to help our salespeople sell the product. They've got to talk with building officials. And so we like to hire engineers with personality. And what I've always said at the company is, I can take a salesperson, and there's many in the room here, I can take a Simpson salesperson and I can teach them the mechanics of engineering. But I cannot teach an engineer to have personality. So it's an interesting combination, and Annie certainly has that, and we're really fortunate that Annie joined the company almost 10 years now, and is certainly one of our bright and shiny stars from our engineering group. So just a few things about Simpson StrongTie. I got the opportunity to sit with a few people at the table here today, but to give you an opportunity, the company's been in business since 1956. We, this year, will be celebrating our 60-year anniversary, which is quite an amazing accomplishment. We were a family-owned business. Our founder, Barclay Simpson, actually just passed away a couple of years ago at the age of 93. We became a public company about 20 years ago from the New York Stock Exchange. And as Annie mentioned, we have about 2,500 employees. We are also a global company. We are in business in over 20 different countries, and that certainly creates some interesting opportunities when we talk about leading a group. So not only in the U.S. English-speaking currency of dollars, but working in different areas and different currencies, different skill sets in all those different countries. We're almost 800 million in revenue, and we'll talk about some things reaching that billion-dollar level. But if you're familiar at all with some companies, when you look at our gross margin, I talk to a lot of investors, and for a building materials company, there is no public company that has a better gross margin than that 45%. We'll talk a little bit about how we managed to continue to grow that gross margin. So the company, again, is anybody here taking a timber design class? I got somebody at our table has built a hammer, so it's kind of close. Trying to explain what Simpson does. So all of you live in a residential house, or you've built a deck maybe, or you've at least maybe had a barbecue out on the deck. I don't know if you guys have parties here at Harvey Mudd, but maybe you do. So maybe you had a party on the deck. So if you look at what Simpson does, our core competence is connections for wood-to-wood applications. And typically that's residential, single-family residential homes. In the U.S. we can build wood up to 5 stories, so we have a lot of our products used. Outside of the U.S. and Canada we can build wood to 6 stories, and a similar thing in Japan. So anytime you think of a wood structure, I can almost guarantee you there'll be Simpson StrongTie products on that structure. We have over 200 engineers within the company. If you talked about Simpson probably 30 years ago, people would say we're a manufacturing company. Today, I think people would say we're an engineering company that manufactures building materials. And that's a big change in the direction that Simpson has gone. So if you think of those 200 engineers, very similar to Annie, they're out talking to people at job sites, they're developing new products. We do a lot of work with code agencies. You can see almost over 155 codes that we work with, and getting our product patented. And that's very key for us because we want to be able to differentiate our product. So not just a manufacturing company, but really an engineering company that really focuses on resolving customers' problems, whether that be from an engineering standpoint or actual job site standpoint, and then really progressing in this industry. So everything was looking great at Simpson. I think I mentioned I've been with the company 32 years. I have been through a couple down cycles, but nothing that hit us in 2008. So in 2006, the housing starts were 2.1 million, and we were approaching $800 million in revenue. Everything was looking great, and we were all plotting and planning when we would hit that $1 billion mark. By 2008, housing starts had dropped to 600,000, and our revenue had been cut in half. So from a leadership standpoint, there is nothing easy when you're helping manage a company of still about 2,200 employees at that time. There's nothing easy about your revenue being cut in half, and what do you do to resolve this problem? We had to make some pretty dramatic changes. We had to actually do a mass layoff. The company had never, ever done a mass layoff. But we needed to be able to, when your revenue is cut in half, you have to do something. You certainly can't hope this problem goes away. So when we looked at the layoff, what we did is we laid off people in production that obviously didn't need as much inventory as we were producing at the time. And we laid off people in the office. But what we chose not to do was lay off salespeople. And all Simpson salespeople are Simpson employees. We don't use reps. We chose not to lay off any salespeople. And the reason we did that was because we knew our customers were going to be struggling just as much as we were. And we wanted to be sure we were there face to face to help them, to be sure that when things came back, and we knew they would, that our customers would think of Simpson StrongTie first and come back to us from a standpoint of wanting to purchase and buy our products to help them. So it was a key initiative and a key decision to decide not to lay off any salespeople. The other thing we did during this time is we said to our salespeople, go find applications for our products that are not in new housing. Find applications for our connectors, find applications for our fasteners. Because when housing does come back, all these new applications you found are going to make us even stronger. So this is what this now better looking graph looks like. Okay? If you look again at 2006, you can see the black line is housing starts, and it's running off the chart at 2.1 million. And again, we were almost at 800 million in sales. But if you look over at 2015, you see housing starts are slightly under 1.2. So housing starts at half the amount, and look at where our revenue is. Our revenue is back to where it was before the pre-downturn, to the fact that our salespeople were able to find additional applications for our products. The other thing to look at on this graph, I mentioned our gross margin. Another initiative we put in place is we said, you know what, the downturn is not great, but let's use this as an opportunity to be efficient. Not only efficient in our manufacturing, but efficiency in our offices. So we implemented lean initiatives, very similar to what we were talking about on your method of faster production, looking at your scheduling. Looking at those in every single area. We looked at it in our manufacturing, and we implemented lean initiatives in all of our plants. We looked at it from our inside sales. What about accounting? What about marketing? How do we become more efficient? If you look at our gross margins in 2006, at the height of our opportunity from a housing standpoint, our gross margin was 42%. Today, it's at 45%. So in the downturn, by not hoping the problem would go away, but by being proactive, figuring out a target for the salespeople, figuring out what we were going to do from the operations standpoint, and helping inside salespeople and our manufacturing and our office people, giving them a program of what we were going to do, being able to document efficiencies. This kept everyone engaged. This was definitely a very difficult time for anyone in the building industry. But this kept everyone engaged. And when you look at where we are today, it certainly was a success from the standpoint of where we are on the revenue and where we are in gross margin. And what I'd always say to people is, you know, do I want to live through another downturn like that? No, but yes, it'll probably happen. But that downturn was one of the best things that could have happened for our company because it allowed us to improve and focus in all areas. So we are a better company today than we were at 2.1 million housing starts. So, but one of the things again on the starts is it certainly was a slap in the face like Simpson. You cannot have everything tied to North America housing starts. And so we also use this time to expand our product portfolio and to look into a different model. And what we did is we expanded into concrete repair. Seems a little odd to go from wood products to concrete products, but for those of you, that have been and looked at construction around the world, other than North America, wood is not a predominant material that's used for building. Concrete, brick, block, that's used everywhere. So when you look at the brick concrete world, we have applications for buildings, for bridges, for roadways, water transmission lines, dams, all of those things are built out of concrete. They're all structurally having some problems, right? So how do we repair and strengthen those? So we chose to expand our product portfolio to get into concrete repair. So when the next housing downturn hits, and it will, we don't have everything tied up into only one endeavor. We now have a balance, and that's why we've gotten into this. So think about, from a leadership standpoint, employees in Simpson StrongTie have been there for 20 or 30 years, and all of a sudden we go into concrete. A lot of questions as to why. Why are we doing it? And I think that's a key element as to my role, is to really explaining and talking to people about the strategy and the direction the company's going. So let's talk a little bit about my background. It is true I am a civil engineer. I love that. It gives me certainly the opportunity, as I'm talking to people, that I not only know how our product is used, I know how it's designed, I know how we produced it, I know how we got the loads. It's great to be able to talk to people from the standpoint of the start of the product to the finish of it. So, civil engineering degree, but I also decided about 6 years out of getting out of college that maybe I might want to do something beyond engineering. So I went back and got a master's. That is actually an MBA with emphasis on marketing, which is kind of a little bit different for an engineer to go to. Started with Simpson in 1984. I used to work for a company called Bechtel. Anybody ever heard of Bechtel? Hopefully, yes. Large, very large engineering firm. Great firm, Bechtel. Recruited out of college. I thought this is the greatest thing ever. Not for me. Bechtel's a very large company, and it happens to be the size of, it didn't really matter what you did, whether you were doing a good job or a bad job, as long as you were sitting at your desk and you punched in. And that model just didn't really work for me. So I took the opportunity to apply for a job at Simpson StrongTie. I was their second research and development engineer. Certainly a great role, again, where I could look, develop products, take them from start to finish, and actually see customers use them and install them on a job site. I spent about the first 18 years at Simpson in an engineering role, and then I made a decision. I decided I really liked engineering, but I wanted to do something different. So I took the opportunity to apply for what was called our vice president of the Western region. So now I'm going to go and work on our division where we're having operations, inside sales, outside sales. We're in charge of sales in 13 Western states. So I went from managing an engineering group, complete comfort level, simple stuff, could do it in my sleep, about 50 of them, to a plant and a location of sales and customers and a P&L responsibility and about 400 employees. And this happened in about a 2-day transition. So definitely a little stretch of my comfort zone. And what I would say is, trying to look at roles that stretch you and get you to try different areas was for me a key in helping develop my career path. I spent a few years there at the manufacturing facility, and then our current CEO asked me to be the CFO. And I have to tell you, that's probably the most unusual conversation I ever had at Simpson. Because as I pointed out to our CEO, I don't have an accounting background. So I think I'm missing part of the, the CFO, the financial piece is missing from Karen Colonias, right? I know numbers, yes, with pound sign behind them, not dollar sign in front. So a little bit different when we're talking about the CFO role. But he convinced me to take that role, and again, a stretch, very uncomfortable role for me. I don't like to think of myself as a control freak, but I certainly don't like to be that out of control. But again, the CFO role gave me the opportunity to see the entire company, to look from our international standpoint, where I didn't have that before. I had only looked at our US model. So to be able to look at the entire Simpson world and the direction we were going, again, expanded that opportunity. And about 5 years ago, the board asked me to be the CEO. So I would tell you, I felt very honored and certainly very qualified by the time I'd gone through this Simpson path to be the CEO. So what I would say to you guys is, when you look at your path, a lot of people think I get out of school, I studied all this, and I go it's a straight line A to B. I recommend you try a few different things. I think every time you get out of your comfort zone, you get out of your technology background, you try something in sales, you try something in advertising, you travel, you get a different experience. That path, you gain that knowledge, and that's going to help you in the future. So, maybe you don't need quite as many zigzags as I had in my career, and it's unusual to be able to have all those opportunities at one company. But it's great to be able to have those opportunities, even as you work in the groups. It was interesting how you guys picked the groups you're working on for your presentations today. So try different things. I think you'll grow when you take a look at the different opportunities. One of the things that is key, and I can't emphasize this enough. I know that I put this in a cartoon, but I can't emphasize enough how key communications is. Again, it was great for me to be able to sit in on your presentations today, because here at Harvey Mudd, obviously, you put great pride in your engineers, your math students, your computer science, in being able to talk to people. I cannot tell you how many people I've interviewed directly out of college who cannot look me in the face as I'm having the interview with them. And so I really strongly would recommend that if you haven't had some public speaking classes, that you engage in some public speaking classes. This is what I see how we communicate today. And I think you guys all do this, right? You're on Facebook, you're tweeting, you're on Instagram, all of these means of communication. Not that they're not good, they're great, right? We're now connected 24/7. My problem is this has totally taken away the social skills of face-to-face communication, and it concerns me, because I do see my kids, I see kids coming out of college who cannot communicate. And the thing is, if you're going to be a leader, you can't hide behind your phone. You have to be able to talk to the group that you're working with. You have to be able to gain confidence and respect from them so that they are going to follow you in the direction that you're trying to go with the company. That doesn't happen behind your phone. So again, anything you can do to get more comfort, more experience with some public speaking, I would highly recommend that. I went on Harvey Mudd's website when I was preparing for this, and some of the things about the strategic vision, and I thought this was interesting about your leadership. And I would say that this old model of leadership is probably 20 years old, right? Where it's almost a military style, where you're command and control, you're dictating what somebody's going to do. You always, of course, have the best answer. Nobody's going to help you figure out what you should do. You sort of have the general, and you have, your group that's working for you. I see this still in some businesses, not very many. And the reason is your generation will not accept this. right? And most generations. Nobody wants to be told that your idea is not important, and at least you didn't even give me the opportunity to tell you my idea, right? Nobody wants that. So if you think about leadership style, and I would say this is more of my leadership style, and you might not see the word humility very often when you think of leadership style. But I would tell you, to me, that's a key leadership. You know, I've never seen anyone, and you saw it today in your presentations, there was not one person in that group that completed that whole project. That was a team project. It's very rare that I individually can run an entire company. Doesn't happen, right? It's all about the people that are working at the company and the people that are on the teams. So the opportunity on the humility standpoint to be able to say, what's the best idea? What is the best team we have, and let's put together the best idea. So when we think of Simpson, there is no I in what we work on. We have a lot of teams that work together and get the best opportunities, the best answers. Vulnerability. I am a big proponent on you cannot lead if people do not trust you. And people are not going to trust you if they're not going to respect you. So you got to get respect first. And when I think of vulnerability, I think of making mistakes. Everybody does. The world is not perfect, and if we didn't make mistakes, we'd never grow. But to be able to acknowledge made a mistake is huge, because it gives the team confidence, like, okay, we made a mistake, let's move on. Or I made a mistake, it's okay, let's move on. It gives them the respect, and then I can gain the trust that they know we have a clear path, a clear direction. So to me, when you talk about leadership, it's about putting your team together. I always say, put the best people around you, give them the tools they need, and get out of their way. That is the best leader. And if they respect your plan, you've built that respect and trust with your team, you'll be amazed at some of the things that can happen. So these are my things when I talk about collaboration, that's obvious. When we talk about compassion, again, all of us want to be respected in the things we do. We all want our opportunity to talk about our opinions and our directions. This is just a great way a collaborative team will work together. So I would say to you guys that you need to think, when you want to be a leader, what are the skill sets you want to work on, right? How do you want to communicate with people? How do you want to motivate people? And what is your style? And what I would say is, don't be afraid to stretch out of your technology comfort zone, because interesting things will happen when you stretch out of that. So I have this saying that if it is to be, it's up to me. And I look at this not as a means of arrogance. This is confidence. You have to have confidence that you can step out of that comfort zone and move to the next step. You have to have confidence that as you're talking to people and leading them, that they do understand the direction you're going. So it's a key element that you guys need to think, what are the elements you want to work on that'll make you the next leaders? One of the other things I thought when I looked at Harvey Mudd was this engagement in society. And this really hit home for me, because Simpson StrongTie has been in business for 60 years, and our founder was adamant in believing that you needed to give back to your communities. And so from a standpoint of the company, our core sponsor that we do is Habitat for Humanity. We have 2,500 people in the company. I want every single person to work on a habitat project. So that's a goal that we're working on. But each of our branches, wherever they're located, including our international branches, work on localized community projects that are key in their area. And again, we have been a very successful company. We have very happy people that work at Simpson. We want to be able to give back to our communities. I think that's really a key lesson, as obviously in Harvey Mudd, in your strategy, and certainly in what Simpson's strategy is. So just a couple other things. This is some bikes. You know, we did about 50 bikes that we built for Need Kids in Denver. We had some playhouses that we built, which were given to the some Army, some kids with local Army areas. So I would encourage you again to continue that as part of your vision statement. And then my final point, and I'm happy to see there's a lot of women in here, and I also looked at your statistics, that you have a pretty, almost a 50-50 of women to men You know, it's really sad to me that when I was in civil engineering, which was many years ago, in my graduating class, we had about 400 engineers. We had 3 women. Pretty sad statistics. And here we are, you know, this is a 2012, but I don't think it's changed much, that only about 19% of engineering students are women. When you look into the workforce, the graph or the pyramid shows the S&P 500s. This is the top 500 companies, public companies in the US. And if you look at the labor force, women at 45%, but as you move up to executive managers and board seats and CEOs, you see that drops off very, very rapidly. From Simpson's standpoint, you know, you see a little bit different there. We really believe that the diversity that we have within our company really helps us grow and expand. But I want to tell you that I would not be the CEO of Simpson StrongTie today. I don't believe it has the fact to do that I am a woman, that I am the CEO of Simpson StrongTie. I think it has to do with the fact that I took the chance and I stretched and I took opportunities to learn more about the company. So I again would encourage you to take those, to think about what is it you want to do, how do you want to grow, and work on those things as you're here at campus, in your summer internships. Again, stretch yourself, work on your communications, think about humility. You get a lot more out of respecting people than thinking you've got all the answers. Thank you. Questions? No questions. Yes?
So, what is next for you for Simpson? What do you have planned?
For me personally or for Simpson? Those are 2 different questions, right?
You could tell me about like personal stuff, but I would inquire about that.
Yeah. So for Simpson, we're actually very engaged right now. We're at about 800 million. We're going to roll out a program which is Prepare for 2 billion, because that's the next things we're looking at. We really think as we look at our trajectory, we could probably stay pretty stagnant on some of our operations and hit the billion mark, but we need to change some things to really be prepared for 2 billion. So we're introducing some new infrastructure software, we're looking at some new acquisitions, we're expanding into new markets. So a lot of things going on, and it's really to prepare for that 2 billion target.
All the best.
Yeah, thank you. Yes?
Did you ever imagine becoming CEO of an engineering company, like when you were younger, or was that a goal of yours, or did it kind of just like happen as you kept stretching?
Well, yeah, I actually started out as a chemistry major, and in the midst of an inorganic lab one day said, this is crazy, I really don't want to do this. So I changed to engineering in the middle of my junior year. I had no idea what engineers did. I've actually built 5 houses, and at that time we had built a house, and so that's sort of how I got into engineering. And I still remember my first class. I walked into class, sat down, looked around, there was no women in there. I asked the guy next to me, am I in the right class? He's like, yeah. I go, where's the women? He goes, I don't know, I don't have any of them. So I thought, this is strange. So I'm not sure I'm really going to like this, but anyway, I had never really envisioned being the CEO, no. I mean, my goal at Simpson was to be the Vice President of Engineering. And I personally think it took me a few more years to get there than I wanted, but I got there, and then really it was determining that I'm a little bit bored, I need a little more challenge, so what are kind of some of the next steps? It was great working at a branch and really being responsible for that P&L. But I got to tell you, my main job, people ask me all the time, what's your job besides strategy and growing the company, what's your job as CEO? And I honestly, my job is to communicate with all 2,500 people at Simpson StrongTie. What's our strategy? Why did we do that? What's the direction we're going, and how important their role is in helping us get there. Because again, I'm not running the press. I didn't make the sale. I didn't support, the customer's needs. I'm just trying to give the blueprint of how I see that we can grow. And it's important that everybody know that. So I spend a lot of time traveling to all of our locations and really relaying to them What's our company direction? Some things are changing. How do I fit into this picture? And if they all can understand how they fit, then again, great things can happen. Yes?
What advice do you have for women who seek to go into management or leadership positions?
Well, I think for you guys, again, you certainly have all the technical background, and that might pigeonhole you a little bit. So I think you're going to have to really aggressively seek jobs outside of that technical role. I mean, again, you almost have to step into a role and say, I know I'm not qualified, but when I interview, I'm going to sell them on how I'm qualified for this role. Because if you're qualified, it's probably still in your technical area, right? So if you think of that area where I just interviewed for the manager of the Western States, I had never done sales before. But I put together some information on how I would sell in those regions. So was I qualified? No. But I had enough information and enough confidence, not arrogance, but confidence, to be able to say, I can do this job. And I've got some experience in some of these other areas. So I would say you're going to have to stretch out. You are going to have to, that's why I say if it's up to me, you can't hope that somebody says, hey, you're a great employee and I think you'd be good for the next role. You have got to say, I want that next role. Because if you sit back and wait for somebody, odds are you're going to get passed up. So you got to be very, again, you got to apply for roles that on paper you're not qualified for, but you are going to be able to exude your confidence and they're going to hire you for that role.
I read somewhere that there's a study that, whenever you're applying for a job, there's a list of qualifications that you have to have, that men are more likely to apply for positions when they have maybe half of them or 3/4 of them, but they're okay that they don't have, whereas women feel like they have to have every single bullet
Right.
before they'll apply.
Right. And I think that's a step that you have to expand out of, right? So even though you're not qualified, if you can do some research on that, and at least in your interview, you've thought about what are the directions, what would you do, right? But if you think that somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, this is great, you should move to this next step, and you should move to this next step. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I would tell you, as great a company as Simpson is, if I had said, I want to go do that, nobody said, hey, Karen, other than CFO role, which that was craziness. But anyway, I want to go do that, right? I want to step out. I want to travel more with the salespeople. I want to see what they do. I want to become more rounded in the company, right? So you have to take that initiative, and you have to feel comfortable stepping out of that role that you're completely solid on. You have to feel comfortable stepping out of it. And I would, again, emphasize, in an interview, and I still interview a lot of people within the company, interpersonal skills can get you a long way versus checking a box on a qualification. So really practicing that skill set of communication is great. Yes?
When you first pushed out from your comfort zone, when you didn't have this much confidence right now, what helped you to push through that?
Well, I think having a good team. When I took the role at the branch, I had a great team in place. So I had the opportunity to learn the role without necessarily having to make some pretty difficult management decisions right away. And I would think in any role, even if you step into a technology role, it's very interesting. I always tell my kids, you're going to go to college, you're going to get this degree, and then you're going to go to the world, and they're going to teach you how to do the job the way they want the job done, right? And it's similar when you look into stepping into new roles. So if you've got the opportunity to learn that role without having, some time to learn that role, and usually anytime I've gone into a new role, I actually walk around and talk to everybody there. What do you do? What's your role? How does it impact? Talk to the guys on the shop floor about what they're producing, talk to the inside sales. When I had the CFO role, I talked to every single person in finance. What do you do? What's your schedule? What are we doing on a month-to-month basis? Why do we do this? So taking that time to learn the employees, first of all, they're going to appreciate that you actually spent some time to talk to them. Secondly, you're going to learn a lot because you can't possibly know what they're all doing, but you'll learn a lot of what they're working on. It's going to gain you that respect that you need. And it gets you that time where you can kind of feel out those different opportunities. I would tell you in the CFO role, without exaggeration, I spent the first 6 months walking around the halls going, what am I doing? Right? Seriously. But again, I had a good team. Other questions? Yes?
I just want to know, when you decided to go back to get your MBA, did you work full-time, or did you take some time off, and how did you manage that?
Yeah, so when I got my MBA, I did work full-time. Simpson has a great opportunity to be able to promote further education, so they actually paid for the education. I took part-time classes in the evenings, and it took me about 3 years to get that completed. So that, yeah, I mean, it's a great program that they have to be able to support that. Yes?
So you mentioned a couple times like trying to do something that you may not be super qualified for, or you just have confidence in doing. So tying that back to your CFO role, when you got the position, you felt that you weren't super qualified for that. But then, with people that have a much stronger background in that work under you, how did you kind of? So I would imagine that would be like pretty draining to like continue to realize that, oh, they know. I mean, you're learning from them also, but then being in charge of all this, how do you still keep up the energy to? Every time you fall to, like, you could make the wrong decision as CFO, and then people will be like, oh, you're not qualified. So like, how do you?
Right. So I don't know if you guys heard that. First of all, when I had the CFO role, I had a very experienced finance person who's today our CFO. And without his support, I wouldn't have been able to do this role. But to answer your question, how do I answer a question to an investor who asked me that question, right? Because you got to imagine that when you go to talk to people who have invested money in your company, it's a little disconcerting for them when the CFO has no financial background. It's kind of might make them a little bit nervous. But again, from the CFO standpoint, again, having Brian there to help out with answering some of those financial questions, what I would more focus on would be some of, again, the strategy and the objectives, some of our acquisitions. When I was CFO, we actually made 3 acquisitions. So I would spend time, again, how do I get out of my little bit not comfortable? I want to talk to you about our acquisitions, why we did it, and how that's going to help the company grow. And Brian can talk to you about the specific, internal rate on investment that you want to know, right? So I managed to make sure I had people next to me, again, a team, very qualified, let them do their job, and certainly give them the opportunity to answer those questions. Because the last thing I want to do is answer something that I really don't know the answer to. Yeah, so it's, the thing that's interesting about the CFO, again, it is, without a doubt, the hardest role in a public company. Because it's like Groundhog Day. You have to close the books, you have to get ready for the investor conference, you have to have a board meeting, you have to file the 10K, and then it all loops again every 4 months. So it's, thank goodness I wasn't not in that role for more than about 3 years.
Okay.
Great.
Have the marks up there.
Thank you very much.